It's been almost 10 years since the original My Best Friend Dumped Me video. It was so much more popular than I could have ever anticipated, and a viewer recently recommended that I create an update video. So thank you, Ben. This probably wouldn't be happening without you. I made previous update videos. I guess I felt that they were sufficient, but I think this was a great idea because so much time has passed and I've been able to reflect so much. I know how important it is to not just like tell your story, but to also offer some kind of solution, some kind of recommendations. Not everyone just wants to hear like a story. Some people want something more than that, and that's what today's video is going to be all about. Hey everyone, my name is Adriana, but the people closest to me call me Ada, and welcome to my channel where I talk about mental health and random life experiences. I've learned a lot since I filmed the original My Best Friend Dumped Me video, and I'm going to cover a few different things today that should give anyone some solid perspective. And welcome to the update video. Yeah! Appreciate and evaluate. Celebrate the friends you do have, unless they suck. I've learned that people's actions really do speak louder than words. And losing a best friend is a good opportunity to learn to celebrate the friends that you already have. The person that first comes to mind is my best friend, Caroline. I've now known her as long as my previous best friend. And I feel like I really didn't appreciate her as much as I should have, because that ex-best friend just, I valued her more. I guess because I knew her longer, and part of this whole process of losing her as a best friend made me kind of consider like why we remained friends to begin with. So we both met when we were around 5 years old. Both of us were immigrants. Like I came from Poland, she was from Kazakhstan, and I guess we were like the first friends that we made, first friends that we met. Living in the States. When I was around 10 years old, my family and I moved out of Brooklyn to Long Island, and her family was moving out of Brooklyn to Staten Island. And we just felt like, we were all that we knew. And I think that's really why we stayed friends. But in truth, we were always, I don't know, just really different. I would be like warm and bubbly and try to be social. And there was just something about her where she really was just so cold. And I feel like I see that so much more clearly now. So I have had to ask myself, why was I even friends with her? It seemed like we had so little in common. And I think the reason why we stayed friends as long as we did was because it just felt like this is what we know. And we've been friends for so long, it'd be such a loss to give that up. But I don't think either of us evaluated the friendship really. Because if we did, we probably just would have been like, hey, you know what, we're maybe a little bit too different. Maybe geographically speaking, we're not that conveniently located to one another. So maybe this is just, let's find some other friends and wish each other well. But that's not what happened, right? But so when she and I went our separate ways by force as a result of conflict, I was forced to really pay attention to the people that were in my life. And aside from my family, my best friend Caroline was the person who stood out the most. And her value in comparison to the other, just shot up. Not because the other one was out of the equation, in fact. It was just because of what her character showed. I was going through a really difficult time, and the other one was like, hey, this is too complicated, I'm gonna ditch your ass, see you later. And meanwhile, Caroline wasn't cold. Caroline wasn't heartless. She was loving, compassionate, and she stuck by me, and I will always love her for that. And I'll always be grateful for that. I'd always value her so much because she stayed with me. She believed in me. She knew things would get better for me, and they did. And she didn't judge me by my circumstances at the time, so I love her. And I've learned that I think it's probably the case for a lot of people. Maybe you have people in your life that you're not appreciating as much as you should be. Maybe you're just blind. Maybe you're just, slightly retarded and you're just not paying attention. But if you've lost a best friend, or if you've lost anyone, now's a great time to actually look at the people in your life and ask yourself, like, what is their value? What do they offer? What have they done or shown me in the past? Like, let's look at like the evidence. If you look at things from like a factual perspective, I think that really helps, you know? Whether someone is there, whether someone reaches out, whether they make time, you know, how they treat you. These are all things that like should be carefully considered. And I mean, you know, there's so many ways to like think about the things that define a person. So I guess to use Caroline as an example, you know, she's an example of someone who has like a very healthy relationship. She's been engaged. She's now married. She knows how to have healthy relations with people that are like consistent and that can evolve healthily over time. You know, she's got a career that she loves. Like, she went to graduate school. She's disciplined. She's loyal to her beliefs. And even what she does for a living says so much about her. Like, she's a speech pathologist. Like, so she basically helps people for a living. And maybe if you don't know anything about speech pathologists, like a lot of them work with people who have disabilities. In fact, most of them are kids. So I always knew she was kind and patient, and that job really puts those things to the test. But she's stuck with it, and it's her like insane level of empathy that allows her to do such a good job and to stay employed and to get paid well, you know, for her knowledge and for her compassion. But so there's different things you can look at to really evaluate a person, and she's always just been so good to me, to the point that like I feel sometimes guilty that I wasn't a better friend to her, like in the past. Like, even when we were younger, I remember being mean to her in certain moments, and I still feel like such a dick for that. And maybe now, you know, maybe she would say like, oh, you know, dude, don't worry about it. Like, it's literally, it's in the past. It's so long ago. But to me, I feel like it shouldn't be like in the past. I should think about it. And I should strive to be better than that. And my goal really, you know, with having her as my best friend is to be as good of a best friend to her as she is to me. As far as evaluating people goes, I think it's also helpful to like actually consider like what kind of memories do you have with these individuals. So if we were to look at like my ex-best friend, you know, I didn't see the chick often. Like, we both lived in New York. Even when we were adults, we had full-time jobs. We had our own apartments. Like, I still rarely ever saw her. I'd see her like 2 times a year. It seemed ridiculous. And I felt like her actions were evidence of the fact that like she didn't really care for my company so much. And if I compare her to Caroline, like me and Caroline have spent so much time together. And we have so many memories together. Like, there's still things that we laugh at or laugh about from our childhoods, you know, like we have these, we watch these like 𝘽𝑗𝑗's World videos, and like, you know, that is just super duper old school if you know about those. But like, there's the hypothermia one, there's the gonads and strife. I can't remember all of them, but like we still will like reference these videos, we'll sing the songs randomly to each other and like just have a good old laugh. I mean, I'll never forget how like we used to make wrestling characters on her Nintendo, like based on real people. And I'm too embarrassed to even say who the hell they were, because like, it's just too much. We would just have like so much fun, so much fun. So I think that's another thing to like think about. It's like, do you have memories with these people? Have you seen them often? I'm sure Caroline will never forget how diligently I tried to like practice my fake British accent. I don't know, the hilarious thing about that is like, you know, I wasn't like an actor trying to master like a particular kind of accent. In England, there's so many different accents based on different regions. And I don't know what the hell I was practicing. I just know like I loved how British people sounded. I wanted to sound like them. And when we were young and we were teenagers and we were just walking around town, or we were loitering at Dunkin' Donuts or going to Taco Bell, hanging out in the parking lot if it was warm out, and I would just be like sitting on the roof of my car or my parents' car and just like practicing my fake British accent. It was ridiculous, but like I love the Brits and I don't really know what else to say about that. And that's like not even a good example of it, because I'm kind of like a along the lines of appreciating and evaluating the people presently in your life, there are some quotes I'd like to reference. I think we all know some version of the one that goes like, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. But there are 2 like such better ones. They're both by Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn was a brilliant motivational speaker. He was a mentor to Tony Robbins. I adore Tony Robbins. So knowing that that's the man that taught him, you know, really makes him super important. But so one of them is, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And then there's a more lengthy version that I feel like everybody should meditate on this seriously. You must constantly ask yourself these questions. Who am I around? What are they doing to me? What have they got me reading? What have they got me saying? Where do they have me going? What do they have me thinking? And most important, what do they have me becoming? Then ask yourself the big question, is that okay? You know, this is something I go back to like a lot in my life. Even kind of, you know, fairly recently, like in the last year, I had met someone that I was dating earlier. Like, this person was not a good influence. They were not a happy person, not as happy as they thought they were. And I felt awful. I felt awful to be around them. They made me feel like worse about myself than I already felt about myself. And like, that's just not good. Like, I've learned that it's important to like really listen to your body. Like, what they call this, like, what, woman's intuition. But like, females aren't the only ones that have intuition. It's wise to listen to how your body responds. Like, does someone make you anxious? Do they make you feel insecure? Do you feel like rolling up into a ball and like fucking hiding someplace? These are things that should all speak to you. And I love those quotes because it forces you to look at life honestly. And aside from that, you know, it forces you to realize like people aren't just people. They're factors in your life. They're factors in how life shapes you. So, you know, the simplest one, which is like, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I think that's fucking true. Losing a best friend also taught me the importance of just being a better best friend. I think that when we go through things in life, it's normal to feel like what we have to endure is like the most important. It should take priority. Like, it's what we want to focus on, because like, it's us, it's our life, it's, you know, all happening around us, within us. But we're not the only people like on the planet. If you think about things in that simple of a way, it can give you a lot of clarity, like very, very quickly. I guess I'm not really sure exactly what sparked it, but I guess after just doing a lot of self-reflection, you know, earlier this year, I said to myself, like, you know, I want to be a better best friend, and I don't just want to constantly think about myself and my problems all the time. I should pay more attention to my friends' problems too. I should ask more questions. And that's something I've been like getting much better at. You know, like, it's not just me talking or me venting. Like, I will ask more questions about what they're going through, how they feel, what happened. You know, is there anything I can do to help? Is there anything I can do to make them feel better? Do they need some kind of advice? Or you know, or did they just want to share? And I feel like it's made a difference. And I feel like both of my friends have noticed that I've made that change. Because if you want quality best friends, you also ideally should strive to be a quality best friend. So I would say those are some of the most like foundational things in this collection of lessons I'll be going over with you today. Next up would be, take a look at the people in your life that maybe you are not paying enough attention to. Maybe you have some like friends or acquaintances, and you know, perhaps they're like overjoyed to have you in their life, and maybe you don't see such a connection, or maybe you find it hard to relate somehow. Like, ask yourself whether or not there could be some benefit to like deepening that friendship somehow, to seeing these people more or to speaking with them more. You know, just because you lost one best friend doesn't mean you'll never have a best friend ever again. But I feel like the best place to start is like, just look at the people in your life, figure out what they can offer you as well as what you can offer them. And no matter how different they may be, there could be some benefits to the differences between you. Friendships also don't have to be perfect, and they rarely ever are. Like, if I could tell you my dream friendship, My dream friendship would be pretty much what you see in that movie, Romy and Michelle's high school reunion. They're like these two blonde best friends. They went to high school together. They have an apartment together, a business together. They both are into fashion, and I don't know, they're just really fun kind of chicks. I've watched that movie so many times, and every time I see it, I'm like, oh my God, I wish I had a friend like that. I wish I had a friend that I was so close to, just like that. And it's never happened for me, you know? It just hasn't, I don't know why, it just hasn't happened. And as much as that makes me kind of sad, it also doesn't negate the friendships that I do have. Like, it doesn't mean that they're nothing. It doesn't mean that they're worth less. Like, it's not the case. You know, there's so many things we see in movies that like we never will experience in real life. I would have to say, don't strive for that like dream scenario, only because when it comes to friendships, at least, if you do that, you may find that like you're often just like left kind of standing on your own. And not having friends and not having a support system, I feel, it's much more, I guess, dangerous than like having some kind of friends you can rely on. You know, having a support system is important. There are some people that like, they don't have a family. They're not close to their family, or they live far away from their family. They don't have people that are like, you know, within their reach. It's so important not to isolate yourself, because as peaceful as spending time alone can be, too much of it, I don't feel as good either. I mean, we are a social species. We're meant to have people in our life. Don't strive for the perfect thing. You can always take a friendship and try to improve it and make it better. And if you want to perfect anything, work on like perfecting yourself. Learn to be a better friend to yourself and to the people already in your life. Finding new best friends is possible. And I'm sure there's many adults that will agree with me that making friends as adults is very difficult. It's challenging, it's unusual, people probably feel weird, they don't want to come off as like a creep. It sucks when like you're held back. I've tried to think about ways where like you can make it clear you're not trying to hit on them or date somebody. Maybe saying like, oh, you know, that you're in a relationship could help. I'm not really sure. I feel like finding the best approach is, seriously, it's not easy. So making new friends can be a challenge. It's something you may need to learn to approach creatively. I think one of the first things I tried was like going to meetup.com. And meetup.com before COVID times was fucking awesome. You could find a group gathering related to like any kind of topic, and you could go and physically meet different people. And post-COVID, I fucking hate this website. I feel like we need a competitor to come in and like kick their asses, because I would say pretty much every single meetup group that I come across, it's all virtual. It's all fucking virtual. I think the only ones that aren't is like singles night or something like that. But if you're looking for anything else, like, man, I don't know, dude, good luck. I guess let me know in the comments below what your experience has been like, but I feel like meetup.com is become like literally like useless for like face-to-face interaction. So back in the day, meetup.com, it was awesome. It's not anymore. So that felt like such a loss, knowing like here's a great resource, and oh, by the way, like it like sunk like Atlantis. I eventually found that there are BFF apps, like, so the same way like you could try to find like a life partner through like a dating app, you can also find a best friend, which is, you know, it's different. It's maybe unusual for some people, but frankly, it's really cool. It's useful, it's nice to have, and it can be really effective. So in my life, I have two best friends. That is Caroline, and then there's Jenny. And I met Jenny through Bumble's BFF app. So Bumble's a dating app, and they made a BFF version like for people that just want to make friends. I'm trying to remember when me and Jenny, I guess like first like met and became friends. I think it's been over 3 years now. But having, you know, having friends like Jenny and friends like Caroline, you know, it now makes me feel like I'm so glad that my old best friend before, like, I'm glad she dumped me as a best friend, because she wasn't a great one to begin with. She was a pretty shitty friend, to be honest. I'm glad to say that like since meeting Jenny, I haven't really needed to rely on Bumble BFF to find any other friends. There was a time when Jenny and I weren't speaking as much, and I assumed like, you know, maybe she doesn't really want to be friends anymore. Maybe she has more interesting friends she wants to focus on. I think I went on the app like briefly. I couldn't find anyone I liked or anyone that reminded me of her that seemed to be like her. And then when we talked about it, it turned out she was actually upset with me about something. And I'm glad that I asked, because then I knew, like, you know, what to do about it, what I could do to fix it, make everything better again. And I'm so relieved, because, like, I don't know, I don't think I could have like hit a better jackpot with best friends, really. These two are like my favorite people ever. They're so good to me, they're honest with me, and they make time for me. And I strive to do the same as much as I can. I can definitely be a bit of a hermit sometimes, and I try to force myself like out of that pattern. Challenging the notion of I'm so alone. This is a lesson that I keep coming back to, and I feel like it will probably be the same for most people. I'm really big into mindfulness, and I feel like learning about mindfulness has changed my entire life. I feel like on one hand, it's made life a bit more challenging because I strive to make sense of things and really not just dissect, but also to like just understand like the various perspectives. But with mindfulness, like learning to break things down into such small pieces kind of also makes it easier to approach conflict that you may encounter. The thought of I am so alone has probably occurred to you in a variety of scenarios. I think it's probably like the most common, like when you're dating someone and then things don't work out and then you feel like I'm so alone, you know, like I don't want to be alone. But it can happen in any way. Like you can lose a relative, you could lose a friend, you could stop speaking to a friend, kind of like what happened with me. But there's so many things that we encounter that can make us feel like just alone. And something I've learned to do is to actually challenge that feeling and that thought. Tony Robbins is one of my biggest role models, and in his book Awaken a Giant, he has this great metaphor on how we can look at perspectives and beliefs. And the tabletop is meant to represent the belief, feeling, the theory, and then the legs are the references that support that belief. And so this is one way of adopting a more mindful approach when it comes to like addressing your emotions or addressing your thought patterns. But so this happened to me, I want to say a few months ago. I was feeling so alone and I was stuck in this, I guess, just cycle of like depression. It's funny how people look at depression differently too. Tony Robbins looks at it as learned helplessness. And I think this can be an insightful way to think of it, but maybe not always the best way. But sometimes maybe we can consider it. So I was in this cycle. I felt like I was really alone, and it was starting to affect like everything. Like I couldn't focus on work, like I didn't want to leave the house. I was just in a really shitty place. And there was one day where I was laying in bed and it struck me to just fucking question it finally. And I was thinking, God, I feel so alone. And then the other voice in my head was like, but are you as alone as you feel? And the whole point of bringing up like the tabletop and the legs that support the table is, you know, now we have to consider like, what are the references that support this belief? So I felt like I'm so alone. So then I start like looking for examples of things in my life. I don't live alone. I moved back home after COVID, so I see my mom every day. I see my dog every day, who I love. So in that sense, I'm not alone at all. I also have brothers I'm really close to. We're like BFFs, I love them. But so I'm really close with them. Like I don't think I can go like more than a week without seeing them. They're always like popping in and out to say hi, to see how we're doing. Also, like I have two like kick-ass best friends. So like how alone am I really? And that's where I kind of forced myself out of this state of mind, which improved everything. It improved like how I felt. It improved my motivation. I guess it awoke this part of me that like wanted to just live life, wanted to be a part of this moving world that we live in. Like I didn't just want to stay in bed. I didn't just want to isolate myself. I wanted to just like get out of the house. I wanted to go for a drive. I wanted to just like partake in life again. So questioning like your feelings, questioning your beliefs, like these are really valuable things to do. And it's something I spent so much time thinking about when I was younger, and I went through, I guess, like a spiritual phase, and I had like my own spiritual epiphany. I would read about a lot of these types of things, and I feel like it's really helped me so much as someone who was younger and as someone who is now an adult, looking at things from a mindful perspective. Like, you know, it's really changed my life for the better. If you presently feel like you're so alone, I feel like in addition to looking for examples that support or don't support the theory you're feeling, I think it's good to also like act on those things, right? So if you think like, I'm so alone, but then you realize like, wait, I have this person, that person in my life, don't just acknowledge that they exist, like act on that realization. Maybe contact those people, see how they're doing, send a text, send a Facebook message, send them a meme, like, you know, whatever small introductory thing like you need to spark that initial connection or reconnection. Like, don't just acknowledge like the evidence of things that support the theory or don't. Like, actually consider acting on them, because it will help you. So if you feel alone, the best thing you can do is like start to look at the people in your life presently. If you are actually as alone as you feel, you know, now you have a choice. You can continue that feeling of loneliness, or you can try to shift out of that feeling. And then that means there's going to be a little bit of work on your part. Now it's back to the chapter of looking for friends. I mean, don't discount friends you maybe got out of touch with. Don't discount even online friends. Like, I used to be so much more introverted as a kid, and like I had a shit ton of online friends, like a ton of online friends. For anyone that remembers LiveJournal, like I had a ton of friends I made just through LiveJournal alone. And some of us got really close. Some of us would like write letters. Some of us would mail each other like artwork that we created, or like care packages we'd put together, like based on things we knew about them or things we wanted to share with them. Like I've definitely sent people like dolls I sewed. I remember that at one point. I'm sure I've sent like packages with like candy and I don't know, things reminiscent of like my culture, to share that with people. Make an effort to take a different action, first by like questioning your feelings, and then by just doing something different. And I feel like when it comes to feeling alone, a really good way to shift out of that quickly is to actually like change your environment. Like leave the house, go for a walk, go to the store. Like if you go to a store, you're bound to run into somebody. I mean, there's always got to be someone who's watching the store, right? So, you know, do things that put you in places where people are. Go to public places, go have a cup of coffee, do things, no matter how small they may be, that you feel are like within your capability. I feel like these are good things to consider even for someone who has like anxiety, kind of like learning to like slowly approach things. There was once a point in my life where I had like really bad social anxiety. Like I remember I had once gone to a concert with a friend of mine, and like I couldn't stay for the whole thing. Like I just was so overwhelmed by people, and I had to kind of work to like get better at that again, you know. So life is weird. We may feel different during different times or different things, you know, based on different things we're going through. But so challenging your feelings can help you actually like work through them, get out of them, and transform them into something else, really. The comfort of strangers. So while I briefly talked about how, like, you know, if you're feeling alone, getting out of the house and being among people can help you, there's another like level to this, which is like getting a little bit more comfortable around strangers. So whether that's like, you know, going to a store, like I'm sure it's happened to a ton of you, where like you've gone to a store, you go to a checkout line, and like the store clerk doesn't even ask you like how the fuck your day's going. They just start scanning the item, and like, I hate running into people like this. It sucks. You just feel like, wow, this person gives like 0 fucks about what they're doing, and they give 0 fucks about the fact that I'm standing right here. It's rude. It's just straight up rude, right? Not nice. But part of mindfulness too is like, you know, considering like how you can be a factor in like changing a situation. Like I would do this a lot when I was working at the local hardware store when I was in college. We had this one customer who would always come in. Man, this guy would always make such a stink. Like he would just complain all the time. Like he was just like this mopey kind of person. I don't know, it's just what his demeanor was. And back then I was like super duper positive. I'm trying constantly to like get back to that person I used to be in terms of like how optimistic I would be. But I started like to challenge myself. Every time he would come in, I would say to myself like, I wonder if today will be the day that I can change this guy's mood around. Like, let's see if I can succeed. Man, it took some time. It didn't happen in like one visit to the store or a second. Like this guy would come in a lot. And there were times where like no matter what I did, what I said, like his demeanor would never change. He was just, I don't know, like a miserable kind of person. And then there were times where like his mood and his approach, or I don't know, his approach towards people and life, like it did actually shift. And that was fun to see. But so, and exciting to know like I had power like that, you know? But so now when I'm in a store and I run into one of these very unhappy clerks, as opposed to just standing there and getting pissed and thinking like, oh, this person's so fucking rude. I can't believe they would treat me like this. Like I flip the script where I think, okay, look, I don't know who this person is. I don't know what they're going through. I don't know what's in their life. I don't know what happens in their life or the things that they face. Let me do the right thing here and let me ask them, hey, how are you today? How's it going? So yeah, I'm not the store clerk. Yeah, it's not my job to like, you know, spark the dialogue, but it's a different way of looking at things. It will change your experience. It also, you know, gives you the opportunity to just like be the better person. Also, it's good to think about the fact that like maybe those people aren't awful people. It could just be that they're going through something. You know, they could be having like a terrible day. Like the reality is like you have no idea like what they're going through. And it's not, you know, it's not necessarily like your job to question or to find out or to ask, but these awkward kind of moments do give you the opportunity to just like be a better person. And when you do that more and more and more, like, you know, you find ways where you can be better for yourself, and especially better for the people that are in your life like most frequently. Another example would be, let's say you get a call from a telemarketer, or let's say you're calling some kind of like customer support line. You know, you get these people on the phone that sometimes they speak in like a monotonous tone. They're asking you to like verify information or just communicate a problem. They're used to like a rinse and repeat kind of like job process and dialogue in what they do. And again, I try to flip things around. You know, they're always asking like, oh, hey, how are you? You know, and I'll actually ask them like, I'm okay, like, how are you? And then another way you can take comfort in strangers is like, hey, look, if you want to spark a random dialogue with some stranger on the phone that's helping, you know, get rid of like a bank fee or some other BS, fuck it, why not? I mean, look, you could start with the basic shit. Like you could talk about the weather. You could talk about, I don't know, some sports game. You could talk about anything. Maybe they have a name that you like. You could compliment them on the name. Just like anything to get the conversation going. So taking comfort in strangers to me means learning to be a little bit more comfortable around strangers, not being so afraid to like spark some kind of a dialogue. Even if that dialogue really is kind of insignificant in the grand scheme of things, it can still serve a function. Whether that function is to make you feel better, to make the other person feel better, or both. It doesn't mean these have to be like insignificant interactions. They could mean something, even if for the moment. Do I miss my ex-best friend? Some of you may be wondering like how I feel about my ex-best friend now. Do I think about her? Do I miss her? Do I think of like reaching out to her? No, fuck no, I don't miss the bitch a bit. And some people may be looking at this thinking like, God, that's so fucking immature, you know, like how old are you? Shouldn't you have like moved on from this? Shouldn't you be like over it? I mean, like, those are nice things to think, But when it's you in that position, it might not always be so simple. So my response to all of this is like, I don't miss her. I don't want to see her. I don't think of her. I have no desire to know of her or what goes on in her life. And I don't think that makes me immature. I think it just makes me human. You know, like I have no need to like make her life worse in some way to feel better. What a waste of time. I believe in karma. You know, I feel like whatever wrong she's done me, it will come back to her in some creative way that the universe will devise if it hasn't already. I mean, the worst I could wish on her is like, I hope she gets fat. I hope she gets fat and stays fat. Only because being skinny is like something she's always wanted. But besides that, I don't think about the chick. I don't. She doesn't cross my mind. And the only time I think about her, honestly, is like when someone comments on one of these videos. It's like the only time. And, you know, like I'm okay with how things went down. Like I'm fine with it. I got through it. Wasn't the worst thing I experienced, like, at all. And you know what? I have like such better friends as a result of it. People that deserve my time, that deserve my love and my attention. I have such great friends. They're such better friends than she ever was. Like she could never even like get to their level. Like it's just not possible. So no, I don't miss her. I don't think of her, and I don't want to be friends with her ever again. And I'm okay with that. And I think it's a healthy way to live and to look at things, you know? I don't believe in unconditional love. I think it sounds really nice. I think maybe a parent would disagree with me. A parent might say, like, I love my kids unconditionally, and like, that's good, and it probably should be like that. But you know, in this case, we're not talking about offspring, we're talking about friends. And how your friends treat you, you know, it should matter. It should seriously matter, because how they treat you is gonna have an effect on you. I think the best thing I can say to summarize this is like, you're not alone. Even if you feel like you are totally alone right now, like you're not alone. And now you just need to convince yourself of that. I'm sure there are people in your life that wanna be around you. I'm sure you can find someone to like physically be close to so you don't feel so alone. And I'm sure you can find better people to have in your life that will care for you and treat you well. And if you've lost a best friend, there's life after losing a best friend. I'm sure you'll make others, and things may feel awful now, but they won't forever. Even though it's like cliche to say like, oh, time heals all wounds. Maybe not all of them, but in this case, I feel like this is a wound that time can heal. So just try to be patient, try to stay positive, and hopefully all will be well. Know your worth. Don't just be friends with anyone, just to be friends with them. Make sure the people that surround you like deserve to be around you. Well, that's all that I have for you guys today. If you found this video to be insightful, hit that like button. And if you want more content about like mental health or life advice, be sure to hit subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.